Hey guys, Nathan Chan here. Really excited to be back for a second interview with Danny. I run an online education and media company called Foundr. I started about 10 years ago. Millions of people consume our content every single month around business and entrepreneurship. And our goal is to build a global leading brand that supports and creates entrepreneurs. Welcome to the Fitness and Lifestyle Podcast.
Welcome to the Fitness and Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Danny Kennedy, and I'm here to help you become the very best version of yourself. Absolute pleasure to have you back on, brother. Firstly, just super grateful for your time. As I mentioned before we hit record, our last episode, we got so much great feedback from it and it was one of our most downloaded episodes, which was incredible. And so, of course, I was super keen to get you back on. I know you're a busy man, so really appreciate your time, mate. But fill us in. How you been since we caught up last and what's been happening in your world?
Yeah, wow. That's crazy, man. That's really cool to hear that the first episode really went down with people. And thank you again for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So since we last caught up, I guess a big thing that has changed for me is I would say I've unlocked fitness, right? Like,
You're looking fit.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So
your jump shot outside looked pretty good as well before we came in.
No, you can't, no, I struggle there. But look, I went on a pretty big health and fitness journey. I'm not sure whether I talked about this publicly, but I went through a pretty big breakup. I've never actually spoken about that, but I was engaged. I was, in an 11-year relationship, and unfortunately, things didn't work out there. And I really wanted to make a big focus on my health and well-being. And I really wanted to make a change. So I was going to the gym, training it with the personal trainer and whatnot. But what I wasn't doing is I didn't really have strong goals.
Mm-hmm.
And
there was no real intention behind it.
Yeah, no real intention. And so for 2023, I came back and I said, you know what? I want to get to 10% body fat. Like, I want to be in really good shape. Mm-hmm. And I was able to achieve that. And that's how kind of you and I sparked up another convo to come back, because I did this kind of photo shoot. I got a spray tan, super embarrassing. But the guys at the gym wanted to do it through Gripped. And basically they were just like coaching me all the way throughout the process, like doing a bulk and, trying to put on as much muscle as possible. And then doing a cut, and I'd never gone through any of that. And like, I'd been training, ever since I was, like, embarrassingly enough to say it, like ever since I was probably about 17, I'd been in and out of a gym, used to love lifting weights, but didn't really know much. I lifted some weights, and then, eventually I started doing personal training and working with somebody. And, I can confidently say now, if I ever really want to get even in better shape or a really, really good shape, have a six pack, it's this kind of code where you just you see the matrix, and it's a crazy experience because there's so much crap out there in the health and fitness industry around you and these fitness influencers, and you see these people, how to actually be in good shape and how to actually be healthy. And that's a big change. That's a big change since I last seen you. I lost a lot of weight.
It's a huge change, man. And firstly, congratulations and well done, because
Thank you.
I know firsthand how difficult that can be, particularly when it's your first time going through that full process and getting down to, as you said, such a low level of body fat. It's a massive achievement. I think you mentioned, kind of unlocks the matrix, but it unlocks a level of self-belief and confidence within yourself as well, I think. And I typically find with myself and with my clients that usually carries across to other aspects and areas of your life as well.
Yeah.
You're really dialed in there and it tends to just carry across also. But how have you found, after going through that journey, maintaining those habits moving forward? So after getting to that really, really peak fitness and then being able to maintain those habits moving forward.
Yeah. So just for everyone, for context, I lost about 20 kilos of body fat. Like, it's pretty crazy. Yeah. 20 kilos. So I was like 30% and I went all the way down to 10. And that was like a 12, 18 month journey. So in regards to maintenance, it's been easier than I thought, actually. Yep. So the key things for me is your 10,000 steps, getting in your daily activity. And so for me, we're always where I can do meetings on the go, get my
Yep.
10,000 steps in. I've got my Apple Watch, but then I've also got my Whoop. I saw
Whoop.
you got one too.
Beautiful.
So that's a big piece of the puzzle. Sleep is important. I use the Whoop to really track and gamify the idea of getting good sleep and getting my sleep score up. I'm in like a little community with some mates. It's just really fun. And then when it comes to diet and nutrition, I use Fed for all my meals, and I've got all my macros and stuff. And then I've just kind of kept that the same, right?
Yep.
So I've gone up to a maintenance phase, so I'm not in a calorie deficit anymore. And this is all the crazy things that you learn when you work with a coach, like someone like yourself. And it's actually not that hard. It's all about discipline and consistency. So I've been able to maintain, I wouldn't be at 10% body fat anymore. I'm probably about 14, 15 right now, but that's okay because I'm going to start bulking soon and then do another cut.
Fantastic.
Yeah. But so nutrition has been really solid. What's cool now is I'm not as strict and I have blowouts or whatever, but because I'm getting all my meals prepared, and this is a luxury that I have in the position I'm in, but you don't have to. You can do meal prep. You can do all these different things if you have the time. And as long as you have all those meals there, I make sure that I consume them. And then I might have a blowout here or there, or, I might have pizza on the weekend or chicken and chips on the weekend or whatever. And then the last part is training, right? So I'm getting my daily steps in and activity. I'm trying where I can to get really good quality sleep. And then I've got my nutrition dialed in, and I've kind of got my macros on, like it's on autopilot.
Yep.
And then the last piece is training. So just hypertrophy, making sure I'm always going up in whatever I'm doing. And, I'm consistent 4 times a week. Very, very rarely I miss it. And if I do that, then I can stay in pretty good shape.
That's awesome. I think one of the takeaways from what you said just there for the audience as well is that, yes, it does require discipline, particularly when you're building the habit. But once you've got those pillars and those habits in place, it's more so about consistency. Like you said, it's just about ticking those non-negotiables, and that becomes easier as it becomes more of a habit.
Yeah.
And at the same time, as you kind of alluded to before, the outlier is not going to make the difference. And so you can have your perfect 3-4 days or 5 days and then shit on the weekend, but when we have a period of, say, 30 days, and out of those 30, we have 25 really good ones, they don't need to be perfect, and there might be 4 or 5 average days outside of that. Those 4 or 5 days aren't what going to makes the difference at the end of that 30-day period. And that's all it requires. I think people, particularly when they haven't done it necessarily with a personal trainer or learnt all the foundations that sounds like you have, put it in the too hard basket, and it's either an on or off switch. And something that I speak about regularly on the show is just that volume dial. So at the moment, you've put your volume dials turned down a little bit, but the foundations are still ticking. There's no on or off. When we start to dial things back in, that's when that volume dial starts to crank up a bit. But outside of that, everything actually stays the same. It's just that level of discipline and the volume dial that changes depending on how hardcore you want to go with the results you're seeing.
Yeah, it's been a crazy kind of realization for me, like massive, Danny. Like, I used to always look at other people and be like, oh, how do they do it? How do they do it? I don't understand. I don't know if it's even possible. But if there's a process that every single person can follow, and no matter where you're at on your health and fitness journey, and if you give it 12 months of like a solid, whether you go bulk or cut and then bulk or whatever it is, if you give it a solid 12 months, it is crazy if you are disciplined and get your macros dialed.
Yes.
Right? Like nutrition changed the game. Like I was going to the gym, and I know there's going to be people here that are watching and listening to this, and you go into the gym and you're lifting weights. Things really started to drastically change for me when I really started to actually count my macros and actually had some guidance around that. And that's so powerful. And there's this thing, like I always say to friends now, like, so I did a, photo shoot with the gym, the before and after, and it was awesome. Right. And I reposted it. They posted me on the stories and then I reposted it. I had hundreds of people reach out to me. And the craziest thing was, it was mainly guys that said, how the hell did you do it?
Yeah.
And every single person I said, look, it's all diet. It's all diet. You've got to know your macros. You've got to get your macros dialed in. And, there were people that say, oh, but like there's a real intimidation around, or a real aversion to calculating what your macros should be and then working out how exactly do you make that up in your food and doing the MyFitnessPal. And I had that aversion.
Yeah.
There's something inside you. I don't know. It's a common thread that I saw. So if you
it's a lack of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
It's like anything else. It's a lack of knowledge and a lack of understanding. But it also, I think, from the outside in, and this is what I get a lot as well, even with new clients, getting their comments around, that's too obsessed or too obsessed here and there, and you're the perfect person to have this conversation with. I relay to my clients, it's like becoming the CEO of your own body, right? If I speak to you, and even before you hit record, we were talking about some of the things you're working on at the moment. You talked about we tested this, we tested that, and this is the results that we got.
Yeah.
Now with your body, it's the same. If I'm just eating what I think is healthy and just training hard, I'm kind of guessing my way to results. I'm not doing any testing. I'm just throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks. But if I know my numbers, it becomes predictable. If this works, we stick with it. If it doesn't, we know what to change. Very much the same with the business. You don't just guess your way to results and not look at the P&L or not look at what ads are and aren't working. By knowing your numbers, you're removing the guesswork.
Yeah.
And once you've unlocked it, like you said, the stress comes down, the overwhelm, the uncertainty comes down, and it becomes a lot more enjoyable and predictable. And that's how it should be.
Yeah. So things got really, really crazy for me when I started to get my macros dialed, and it is crazy. Like, especially when you're doing a cut, like, you know, my bulk was not that serious. And I went from, I think it was around, I think I dropped to about 62 kilos to about 68. And then by the time I finished my cut, I was at like 56, 57 kilos. I could be a jockey, man.
Yeah. As a jockey.
Yeah.
I think one of the comments you made before, though, as well, I wanted to bring up or touch on that I really liked was you said give yourself 12 months.
Yeah.
And being able to broaden that time horizon takes that pressure and the stress away from having to get a quick fix result as well. And when you give yourself that time, as you said, you can see that compounding effect of the consistency over that time, and it's drastic. And I think once you reach the point where you're at now, where you've, as you said, you've unlocked this new belief, or you've gotten rid of a limiting belief, right? And now it all changes. And I'm curious to hear how much of an impact you found that had on your ability to be productive, but even stay dialed in with what you were doing at work, or did you find early stages it actually pulled you away from being able to go as hard?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because I know you wanted to talk about that. And, you know, I haven't really, even when I have gone through various phases of health and fitness journeys, but this was the strongest one I've ever been on, and, you know, did a full proper transformation. I never really get sick that often ever since I started Foundr, because I do try and take good care of myself. But one thing I can tell you is, from reflection, I'm way more focused, right? Like I'm sharper.
Yep.
I'm sharper. But that doesn't take away from the fact that, like, I still need to take holidays, right? Like, I didn't take a holiday last year until the end of the year. That's when, you know, I think you reached out to me and I went to Cape Town, right? Like, I still needed to have that holiday. I still needed to, you know, have a break. But in terms of focus, yeah, like, I can operate at a way higher level than what I would have been able to if I was overweight, super stressed all the time. Like, yeah, what I can take on and all these different things has been crazy because I'm in a decent shape. So, but have I seen, like, you know, I remember that I couldn't do X, Y, and Z, and I can now? No, I haven't. And maybe there's a blurred line between that. I'm not too sure.
Yeah. I think the cool position you're in as well, like having the network that you do, and as you said, having all these people reach out and say, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? There's similarities between getting really good and dialed in and focused and seeing results in a specific niche business idea or topic is very similar to what you've just explained before. You know, you had the accountability, you increased your knowledge, you had a community that you had behind you to be able to support you and to go back and forth and encourage, and it was measurable. These are all very similar variables. I mean, when we talk about, you know, your baby, Foundr, it's all pretty similar, isn't it?
110%. You need to focus. You need to have a target. You can't manage what you can't measure. 10% body fat, right? I was jumping on that DEXA scale every single week, right? You can't manage what you don't measure. And I was watching it go down. And then it was only when I really started to get my nutrition dialed and my macros dialed, and, shout out to Fed, who really helped me, incredible company. Basically, it was only that I started to see the numbers really start to drive. And it's like, same with business. If you test something and you're focused and you're meticulous and you see it working, double down. And then you accelerate that. And so, and there was that discipline. So, all of these things, it's all interchangeable. If you've got a successful business right now, there is absolutely nothing stopping you from taking that same level of discipline, hard work, focus, knowledge, community, all of the stuff that like you provide to your clients, and applying that to your health and fitness journey. Like I would even argue, and this is crazy to say, I would say it's easier to get in shape than it is to build a successful business.
That's awesome. And that's inspiring and motivating for people that are watching or tuning into this at the moment and listening that are in one spot or the other. I feel like a lot of it would have been interesting actually to see like some of those responses, because I mean, a lot of people watching you on socials are watching you to try and, get pieces of information and value in regards to building that business. But then we tend to neglect stuff when we go all in with one thing.
100%.
And so seeing someone like yourself who's kind of the living proof of like, okay, I am building Foundr, I am building my personal brand, but at the same time, I'm bettering myself physically as well. And it can be done at the same time and not neglecting the areas that aren't being focused on.
Yeah, look, and it is, it's funny. I remember speaking to one of my assistants, and she was like, "Oh, why don't you go like and focus on your health and fitness more?" And I'd be like, "Oh, no, because I can only focus on one thing at a time." That was my fallacy, right? And quite openly and honestly, there's been things on the relationship side which I've neglected, and so it's always this balance, this never-ending balance with life around family and friends, and then you've got relationships, and then you've got health and fitness, then you've got finances, money, career, all that kind of stuff. And it is very, very difficult to have all of them if you scored them out of a 10, like 10 out of 10. There's always going to be things that go up and down. But health and fitness, I believe if you set the habits, which I have now, and I have the knowledge and I have the accountability, I have the community, there should be no reason why it should ever slip.
Yeah, 100%. And it's almost like that driving factor that allows you to put that focus into those other pillars as well, isn't it? Without that,
it should be a staple.
You can't be putting in a 10 in all these other things, I think.
It's got to be a staple. Yeah, I agree. 100%.
You mentioned right at the start how everything shifted when you had a clear intention. You had clarity around exactly what it is you were trying to achieve with that fitness thing. Are you open to share at the moment for you in the business side of things what those intentions are?
Yeah. So for Foundr, like I think since we last spoke, we went through a pretty big shift around culture, vision, values. It was really interesting. We did a lot of work with a guy called Gary Dooley, incredible leadership coach. And he spent a lot of time with us because it's crazy. I thought that people knew, like within Foundr, what the vision was, right? And like I thought it was really clear, that we want to be a household brand that supports and creates entrepreneurs. But like I never wrote it down. It's funny the power of impact that you get from people when you write things down. It's not enough to just say it. You need to write it down. You need to put a big stamp on it and say, this is who we are. This is where we're going. This is our purpose. So in the past year since I saw you, we did a lot of work on our vision, our purpose, and our values. So now our values are really, really clear. We were looking for people that are curious, united, and transformational. We want to seek to understand and be curious always. We want to do transformational work that we're really, really proud of. And we want to be united, an incredibly strong team that has really strong relationships with each other. And then if you base that and then you kind of ladder it up, what is our purpose? Our purpose at Foundr is to accelerate people's growth and future through entrepreneurship, no matter how big or small, whether it's a podcast, whether it's an online program, whether it's our membership, Foundr Plus, whether it's our coaching program, whether it's our summit. Like whatever it is that we do, we want to help change somebody's life, really make a difference through entrepreneurship in some way, shape, or form with our work. And then our vision is we want to be a global leader that supports and creates entrepreneurs. So then now we ladder it down. Well, what's our BHAG? How far do we want to go? Right? So for us, we want to have 100,000 Foundr Plus members. I can't tell you exactly where we're at, but we've got a bit of work to do, right?
Yeah.
So we're shifting, in terms of the target and where we're going all in on our Foundr Plus membership. That's the biggest focus for us. Because here's the thing, right? When we spoke, we recently launched Foundr Plus, but we never fully went all in, if I'm going to be honest with you.
With the launch?
Yeah, well, with the shift in the business model. Yeah. So we still continued to sell one-off programs. And I got to the point where I was just like, you know what? We're doing our customers, we're doing our community a disservice if we don't just go all in and just focus and do whatever we can to drive the membership. So now, like, we're even going as far as we give you $1 trial for 7 days in our membership. And the reason is, and that's something that's really, really working quite well. And the reason is because we want to put our first, best foot forward.
Yeah.
I believe in that product so much that if you want to start or grow an e-commerce business, it is the best platform out there to help you. And, we even give you a customized learning journey. So we've done a lot of work on the product now. So when you first sign up, not only can you get started for $1, and then it's $99 a month or $500 a year, super cost affordable. Like we ask you a series of questions when you first sign up, and then off the back of that, we will work out where you're at in your e-commerce journey to give you customized content to help you. And we've broken it down into like this success path. Like we've got a Foundr success path, and you can be at certain stages in your e-commerce journey. And that quiz, that onboarding quiz, will be able to work out, and you'll be able to identify where you're at on the Foundr success path. And then there'll be certain milestones and things that you need to hit and do, because we've been through this. Like we've helped so many people start and grow e-commerce businesses. We know exactly what the next step is. So it's not about like, if you want to learn how to start or grow an e-commerce business, yeah, you can for sure do as much reading on blogs and articles, and do as much, listening on YouTube or listening to podcasts, for sure. That will get you a certain point. But if you just want to take away all of the guesswork, all of like, what do I do next? All of who do I listen to? What framework do I follow? Or where do I need to focus on? We'll take care of all that. And for the cost of I think it's going to be like $1.30 a day. And we will support you on your journey. That's our focus. Like, we are doing a disservice if we don't get as many people as we can into Foundr Plus. So that's our big focus. That's where we're going all in. And I've shared with you the target, right? Yeah. And now I've got the discipline. What are the daily actions? What are the daily steps? What is getting traction? I talked to you before. We ran a summit. Went really, really well. It was a how to start your e-commerce business summit. Went so well that we drove a lot of members. And now it's just like, okay, well, how do we go again? How do we make this even bigger? All right.
Do you mind if I just jump in quickly there? Because as I said before we started recording, you were talking about how you did some testing in regards to what that particular niche topic was going to be. I think that's something that's really beneficial for business owners out there at the moment, or even content creators that probably get into a route, and I've definitely done this previously. You kind of get into this little routine of posting what you think you want to post, or what you think is best, or what you think people are going to like, but being able to survey or test different topics to figure out exactly what your audience needs is super important. So how did you guys go about that?
Yeah. So it's, even I've been building Foundr for a decade, and, you still make the same mistakes, and you just got to learn from them harder and harder and harder. So I'll ask you a question. Do you know how Tim Ferriss came up with the name of his book, The 4-Hour Workweek?
I don't.
He ran a series of ads where he split tested the title.
Wow. I feel like Hormozy did that recently as well.
Probably.
Yeah.
And you'll find that a lot of people do. Stephen Bartlett,
Yep.
If you go to, it's either Diary of a CEO or Stephen Bartlett's profile, and you can see all the ads he's running. I encourage people, have a look at how many titles of the podcast show he is split testing, just running ads. Wouldn't cost much. And so I use that same approach. So
Title of the individual episodes.
Yep, he's split testing everything.
Wow.
But it's the same process,
Yeah.
right? Because that headline or that hook could be the difference between, for him, 1 million downloads or 5.
Yeah.
Right? And you talk about dialing things in. So we ran a summit last year, like an online virtual conference. So we're really starting to get into online virtual conferences. They're amazing, right? Like we interview all these incredible people. We get people to do amazing presentations. It can be content for our members. It's a great way to introduce some of our instructors, just like how I know you work with the girls at Keep It Clean. Like it's an amazing way to bring, and it's a free virtual conference. It's an amazing way to kind of showcase who your brand is, who you are, and give people a sneak peek of your instructors and your content and, really help people. Like it's amazing, right? So it's a free virtual conference you can do from the comfort of your own home. And we ran one last year, and much like you said, we just guessed. We said, all right, AI is really hot.
Yep.
And we know that we are, really service and focus on e-commerce founders.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, let's just do an e-commerce AI summit. And we found that, we brought well over 10,000 people to the summit, but we found that the topic just didn't resonate as strongly and there wasn't as mass market appeal.
Okay, yep.
And so when we did a post-mortem, so when you run a launch or a project or something, you do like an analysis, a post-analysis. And one of the biggest things that came up was we need to test the topic. So we said, because these are a lot of work, these conferences, and we can only run them probably once every 4 to 6 months. So we're trying to run 3 a year. And, we ran one just literally last week. And, we looked at it and we go, okay, well, how can we best test this? So we had like all these different topics, 10, 15 different pages where people could sign up, and we just changed them all. Didn't take much work. We ran ads to it, and we saw that by far what got us no doubt about it, the cheapest lead cost, which was like, I think $5. There were some that were 10, there were some that were 15, there were some that was 20, there were some that were 30, there were some that were 40. Right. But there was a clear outlier, which was start your e-commerce store business. Start your e-commerce store business summit.
Incredible.
Yeah. So, and that backed out, right? So that one little test, couple of hours work, saved us so much time, energy, effort. Like you said to me, how many people were behind this at your team? At least 20, 25 plus people were behind this thing. And it was the difference between the one we ran last year and this was night and day. And it just came from just testing, right? And the crazy thing is as well from this journey is like, there was talks internally whether we run another one because it wasn't as successful. The last one that we ran in September wasn't as successful as we liked. I said, no, look.
Questioning around whether or not we should or shouldn't do another one.
Yeah. And I was like, no, guys, like we need to learn our lessons, right? Like we need to, and I think there's something beautiful in that. Like in business, a lot of the times people are looking for a fancy tactic. Like you're listening to this podcast, I'm just giving a hack, right? I guess gave a tactic. But at the end of the day, all of these different tactics work. It's all about the execution. It's all about the people, right? Whether it's a summit funnel, whether it's a VSL, like all these fancy ways, whether it's a challenge, all these fancy things, all of these fancy tactics work. It really comes down to the execution. And that's something that I've become more than ever very, very, very interested in my evolution as a CEO and a founder. How can I have the company insanely focused, and how can we make our focus so strong that our execution is on point? Because that's all it is, right? You are judged at the end of the day by your execution in anything that you do.
Yep.
Right? So, that's been an interesting one.
For sure. The power of writing something down or collectively getting people on the same page, right? Like a lot of the work I'm doing at the moment with my high ticket clients is around mentoring and a lot of stuff around mindset. And one of the analogies I use around, the law of attraction, and in this case, it's kind of similar to what you just spoke about is intention. And I always say it's very similar to Facebook ads. And the reason why it's similar is because when we write something down and we bring our awareness to it, we have our RAS, reticular activation system. And so now we're so much more consciously aware of it. It's like when you decide to buy a car and then all of a sudden every second car you see on the road is the one that you want to buy. But they've been there all along. You've just never been aware of them. And so when we write these things down and become so aware of them, it's very similar to typing in on Google, searching for a product you like, and then all of a sudden you're seeing these ads all the time on socials. And so now you're consciously aware of this thing again and again and again. And if it actually means something to you and you have some form of emotional attachment to this thing that you are writing down, there's a belief behind it, eventually you'll follow through, you'll execute with it. And it's just so important, but it's such a simple thing. And just really getting very, very clear on exactly what that is. And I think what people struggle with in that scenario is writing it down, but then stressing about the how straight away. But before you even get to the how, it has to be that focus on the what and getting people collectively on that same frequency, on the same page, and just actually aware of what the what is. And all of a sudden the how starts to show itself.
Yeah, I agree. So if you translate the fitness to business, it's like 10%, right?
Yes.
How do I get
yeah.
that? And I measured every week. I weigh in, right? 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, and then you wrap your whole focus blind. You put your blinkers on. Like I just got obsessed, right? And that's how you win in life or business. It has to be an obsession. So now for business, I'm talking to you about Foundr Plus, our membership. How do we get to 20,000? 20,000, like it's the number, 20,000, 20,000, 20,000, 20, like then the how comes. But just getting really clear, there's something so powerful of just having one number. One number, and just focusing all of your efforts, orientating your whole company around that one number. How do you stretch? How do you challenge? How do you grow? How do you lead towards that one number?
For sure. And you know, one of the things I mentioned to you before we started was talking on the topic of failure. And I think that ties into that because one of the reasons why I find people don't figure that one number out is that fear of failure or the fear of judgment or the fear of people's opinions and stuff as well. And I think we kind of let ourselves off the hook by not picking that number and not being very specific about what that is, because if we don't get clear on it and we don't finish it off or we don't execute and we don't get that outcome, at least we can kind of go, oh, well, I didn't really get that clear. I didn't go all in. I didn't try my hardest. But I think there is a big fear around failure, particularly in fitness and particularly with business. And so how do you approach that when, you know, you might have this number, 100,000 members, and you do something you think is going to get there and it doesn't? How do you then approach that to keep moving forward?
It's a really interesting one, man, because at the same time, you want to, one thing I've learned when it comes to numbers, targets, and hitting them is you can do a lot of damage to yourself internally or to your team if your numbers are unrealistic. Right? You know, like Grant Cardone talks about, 10x and, if the number's 10,000, we'll make it 100,000 then if you fall short. But that can be very damaging too. So what I've found, which is really, really powerful, and I'm working with a coach on it, is having your 3 targets. And there's conservative, moderate, and stretch. And whatever your number is or whatever your target or whatever your goal is, if you focus it down to, you've got to find a way to celebrate the quick wins and to build momentum. And that's the key to a lot of this stuff, right? If you're drowning and then you give yourself a number and your number is so unachievable, you're so far away from it,
It's deflating.
it's deflating. It's demoralizing and you give up. And there's this whole mindset piece that just fucks with your head. And you're just like, you can't see it. And that's 50% of the battle. Like, I never forget, I met a really successful founder here in Melbourne, built a massive business, and he said to me, Nathan, like, do you believe Foundr can be $100 million a year company? And I said, yes. And he said, well, bang, that's 50% of the battle won. 50% of the battle is won in your mind. I've talked about this before. So whatever your number, whatever your target is, how can you find something where you can just have some stages to it,
Yeah.
or you have some stepping stones. So you can have your 100,000, but maybe in the first 2 years it's 20. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
You're building that momentum.
Yeah. And so then, well, let's break it down. What does it need to be on a month? What does it need to be on a day? What does it need to be on a week? And how can you just get wins? It's all about winning. It's all about building that momentum, no matter how small that gain is. And if we bring it back to the fitness piece, right? I weighed in every week. And when I was doing my cut, I was losing about 1 kilo of fat a week, right? And, I could see it. I could see it dropping. And once you start seeing it, even if it's just a little bit, that 1 kilo eventually became a total of 20 or 15. Maybe not, I was thinking maybe it wasn't 20, maybe it was 15, but whatever it was.
Yeah.
I could show in the in-body. But yeah. So I think it's, when you ask me that question around the number, it's like, yeah, you can have a number, but you need to backpedal, you need to track it back, and you need to focus on getting that win and building that momentum. Stack the win, build momentum. Stack the win, build the momentum. Stack the win, build the momentum. And that's what I did with my health and fitness.
Yeah.
Right? Started small, but then slowly stacked it. And then you're looking at the photos.
Yeah.
Right? You're taking the photos. I'm not embarrassed to say I was taking selfies, man.
Yeah, man.
Right? You got it,
Yeah,
right? You got
sure.
to take those selfies. You got to, because you can see the change.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you've got to, there's something in that which is interchangeable between life and business, around stacking the win, having a number, but then just getting, even if it's a small thing.
An interesting topic. Again, I don't want to talk too much about the stuff that I'm doing, because we're here to talk about you. But an interesting thing that I've been chatting about, I'm keen to hear your thoughts on this. On this topic is raising your like embodying the version, like that future version of yourself now before the reality has changed. Okay, so when we think of it in a fitness perspective and business, in fitness we can start at, we're day one and we're trying to get this end result, and we're just doing the things to get the result, but we're not changing. But if from day one we go, okay, if I envisioned that future me who was 10% body fat, who was feeling fantastic, who was productive and all the rest of it, what emotions would be attached to that, and how would my habits look like if I was already there? And how can I start to embody that version of myself now? Now in business, it's very similar, in my opinion. Again, you can tell me as well. I had a client that I'm mentoring the other week, and they're going through a bit of a tough phase at the moment, and we're building them up to get to this outcome they want to be at. And so there was something that just kind of they found very difficult the other week, and they just kind of stopped all the shit that they'd been doing and all the stuff they know they need to be doing on a daily basis in order to get them to this outcome they're trying to be at. And the way that I spoke about it with this person was, if you were already that future version of you and you had this business or you had this life that you're saying that you want, if you shut down and acted like you're acting like right now, if there was a problem that came up, what would happen to this successful business if you did that same thing there that you're doing now? And so the whole purpose behind that was saying you have to think, act, behave, and feel now the way that you are envisioning yourself being in the outcome you're saying you want, because it doesn't just happen by chance. It happens by an accumulation of you embodying that version of you until eventually you're a match for this outcome, and that will collectively just compound over time.
Yeah, so you said what you were saying, it kept coming back to me, and I think of one of my coaches, Tony. And what he would say to me is, Nathan, focus on the inputs. Focus on the inputs. You talk about daily habits.
Yeah.
What are those 1, 2, 3 things that you commit to every single day? I talk to you about my fitness habits.
The non-negotiables.
Right. Same with business. What are those habits? That's the key. What are the inputs? A lot of this stuff isn't actually rocket science. The thing that fucks with us is our head, right? And, the challenges that we face, and we get a few hits and we get knocked around, then we lose focus and we change it again. And it's just about daily habits, daily inputs. What are the things that you're focusing on, and having that discipline, and then test, measure, learn. Test, measure, learn. Test, measure, learn. And that's all it is, man. It's all interchangeable between business and fitness.
I love that, man. Mate, you're going to have one extra Foundr Plus member after today because I can't believe I'm not already in there, but I'll be signing up as soon as we leave. And for those that are watching or listening, I'm going to post some content over the coming weeks of, I guess, my experiences in there and some of the things I'm finding, because I know a lot of you are on similar journeys to me, whether it's very much the same or completely different. I know you are a lot of people, business owners, a lot of you in the health and fitness space and everything as well. I personally, at the moment, along with my fiance Danielle, we've recently launched our e-commerce brand Unify, a supplement company, and so it's still very fresh for us as well. Where you know, I'm working with a couple of mentors at the moment as well, and now we'll be in Foundr Plus as well. But there's a lot of lessons for us to learn, and we're still at those very early days and very raw in the e-com space, considering it's the first time we've really got into it. Obviously, you spent a whole summit talking about a lot of these tips, and we don't have all day to be able to go through all of those. But are you able to kind of draw out some of the key focus points for someone who is just early days in the e-com space to how they can, I guess, navigate their way through those early stages to get to eventually a successful e-com brand?
Yeah, 100%. So, look, you're a couple of stages ahead when it came to the summit, because the summit was about how to start.
Yeah.
But we put out so much content for either how to start or grow.
Yeah.
But for anyone listening, right, if you want to start an e-commerce business, sell a physical product online, there's no doubt about it. One of the biggest factors when it comes to success is the product selection. Like, you have to get product selection right. If you don't get product selection right, it's a grind. And even if you do get product selection right, it's a grind, right? But if you don't get product selection right, it becomes this really difficult thing, and you fall in love with the product, you fall in love with the brand. And so the question is, how do you get product selection right? It's really about having a really strong problem that you're solving, right? Like you're doing with Hydrate.
Yep.
Right? Unify.
Yeah.
Unify. Your Hydrate
Products.
Hydrate products. So clear problem that's being solved. Then you need to look at the differentiation. You need to look at the branding, the differentiation. Why should people care? What is the story? And then you really need to focus. I really love what Ezra talks about. He talked about this on the summit. All you really need then is one really, really good page and one really, really good ad. So you need to know your customer so incredibly well. You need to know what their dreams are, what their hopes are, what their aspirations are. You need to know what their objections are, why they are not sure about your product if they were considering it. You need to know, what's holding them back from achieving whatever it is they're looking to solve. You need to know your customer so intimately well that on that page you speak to them. That page comes alive where your target customer goes, where have you been my whole life? And if you can get that right, then you translate that into an ad. And that's a video or whatever it is. And that one video or that one ad or whatever it is, you can put it on all these different channels, right? And you can do variations of that ad, right? On all different channels. It doesn't have to be an ad, but you see where I'm going with this, right? Yeah. And if you can get that piece right, then you can get your paid advertising right. You can get your email marketing right. And then it all starts to build. You were talking to me about affiliates, right? It's easier for the affiliates to sell, but there's a body of work there that unfortunately a lot of people don't do, which is really intimately knowing the customer, the target market they're looking to serve, and how to speak to that person. And you've got to get that right. And it's not fun.
Yeah.
It's not sexy. But you got to get it right. Like in the summit, we talked to this guy.
Are people able to still get access to the summit now that it's already been?
Yeah. So if you're a Foundr Plus member, there's recordings.
Cool.
Right.
So obviously, guys, we'll have the link to Foundr Plus in the show notes for those of you that want to join.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys will be able to get access to that summit if you join up.
Yeah. So, look, there's this guy. He really, he was on the summit, and his name's Danny Wilder. And he created a $400 million a year cookware company, and he's partners with Gordon Ramsay.
Oh, wow.
So Gordon Ramsay is the literal ambassador for the product. It's called HexClad. Have you heard of
Yeah, I have,
HexClad?
yeah.
Yeah, and you look at their branding, you look at their marketing, and they talk about their cookware being badass and but they're really speaking to a certain kind of customer, right? And you look at their product, you look at how they market, they're really speaking to a certain kind of customer. But what was so powerful was the story, because he was a chef, how he knew the problem that he was solving, how uniquely he could articulate it, and then how all the marketing, it all worked itself out because he knew the problem he was solving and he could articulate it so well and he could speak to his customer. And it was different and it was unique and it worked, right?
I feel like not to throw in a free advertisement. I feel like Manscape comes to mind when I think of that as well. They seem to be really good at speaking to their exact customer.
Yeah.
The language they use, yeah.
Yeah. So look, that was a great example of just getting that piece of the puzzle right. And then look, you have other challenges around supply chain, around stock, around, ad, like all these different things. But if I could give you a parting gift, it would be that really knowing your customer so well and getting one page right and one video. Focus on just one good page, one good video, right? That's all you need. And just keep testing, iterating, test, measure, learn, test, measure, learn, test, measure, learn. And that needs to be the focus. Once you get that right, you can replicate it on social. Or once you get that right, you can replicate it on paid, like all of that good stuff. But it really comes down to the page. You need one good page and one good video ad.
And I'm assuming off the back of that, then when you mention things like content, regardless of what channel that is through, that content needs to be in exact alignment with the same style of messaging you're putting on that
100%.
page and that ad, yeah?
Yeah, and you just have different angles. Same thing, but same message, same core problem solving, same, handling these objections, same speaking to these aspirations, but just different angles.
Different angles.
Yeah, different angles, different hooks, different hooks. But that in the, and I'm not trying to make it sound easy, but I'm trying to take a complex thing and simplify it for people.
100%.
Because there's a lot of noise, right? There's a lot of noise. TikTok organic, affiliates, SEO, content marketing, Instagram, influencers, paid ads, like Google ads, Facebook ads, TikTok. People don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what you're thinking.
Yeah,
like,
course,
honestly,
yeah.
you're thinking, right? I don't even know where to start. Right? Start with getting your messaging right. Start with just creating a really good fucking video that sells this thing. Right? Start with really understanding your customer intimately. These people that are repurchasing, I'm sure you would have a subscription for your phone.
We do. Yeah.
Who are they? Why are they resubscribing? What are the things they love about the product? What are the things they don't like? What is the pattern there? What is the consistent theme on why they keep buying? Why they keep resubscribing? Where are we going to highlight that at the top of the page as the one thing that people know when we drive home? It's that stuff. It's that little kind of 1% of stuff that compounds.
I love that, man. And so when we come back to, say, Foundr Plus, right? Outside of using summits, using your summits, as you said, they're hard to run regularly because of the amount of time and effort and people that go into that.
Yeah.
What are some of the key things that you're using with Foundr Plus to build that membership base on a daily basis? That's a very similar type of thing you're doing through your content, through your email marketing?
Yeah. So for us, thankfully, we've been around for a while, so we've got our Instagram following, we've got our email marketing, we've got our email community, we've even got some really cool stuff we're doing with referrals, right? We're starting to do some really, really cool stuff with referrals we're about to roll out, which I'm really excited around. There's all sorts of things on partners. looking at our different instructors, how we can partner with them. There's all sorts of things on paid advertising, all complicated stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, we've spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on paid advertising. It's been a wild journey to say the least. So yeah, all the same channels that everyone else is using, but really for us, it's about we've got a really solid like I think I said this before. We want to put our best foot forward. We don't want to, we want to make it as easy as possible, an absolute no-brainer for people to try us out. So now we have a $1 7-day trial, and then it's $99 a month and $499 a year. And, we're going to put our best foot forward, and we're just focusing on the product, right? That's a big thing for us now. We have such a strong emphasis on product. Like I never used to, but these days, like we are very, very, very focused on product because you have to be.
Yeah.
Right? Like we don't have any problems like, driving trials because it's a great product. But how do we make sure that we have people sticking?
Staying, yeah.
That's the big, big, big piece of the puzzle. Now, thankfully, we actually have a really good retention, but it can always be better.
Yeah.
And that's a big focus for us.
I feel like that custom journey part that you mentioned before is such an interesting and beneficial thing for people to jump in. Like I'm excited to try this afternoon to go in and do the quiz and things like that and see where it kind of takes me. I think that's essential.
You're at. Yeah, and see what stage you're at on the founder success path, right?
100%.
And all the things that you need to do to go to that next stage, right? So how did I know that lights people up? Because I did the work. Right? So all of our new marketing, when we start to really double down on this dollar trial, because that's a big, big focus for us that we've only really started doubling down on, it's going to be a big part of it.
That's
right.
Awesome.
You see where I'm going with this, right? So how can you take those learnings and apply it to Unify?
I can't wait to do all the boring work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
This next question, I want to be mindful of your time, so I've just got a couple more for you here, Nathan. It's a bit of a loaded question, but for someone who's in that exact position that you've just spoken to, right? So they're very early days. They're just maybe there's someone like myself who's a couple of steps in, or maybe even a few steps before, and we see a lot of content now around the importance of AI. But then, this is me personally speaking here. Like I find it quite difficult to navigate where I should be placing most of my time. Is it getting pulled away from doing a lot of the stuff that's been done for years, or is it now going, okay, well, should I be using AI to do all these things?
Yeah, that's the number one thing, right? The number one thing that we hear from our community is we know that like AI is the future, but I don't even know like if it's worth my time or where to start. Like there's so many tools, like it is tough.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why we ran the summit. Honestly, that's why we ran the summit. We ran an accelerator program where we gave people like start here if you're here, use these if you're here. And it was really cool, some of the content and stuff that we shared, and that all part of Foundr Plus. But what the answer to your question is look, unfortunately or fortunately, AI is going to just keep growing at a rapid pace, and more than ever, things are going to get easier, right? Like, and I don't know about you, but from a copywriting perspective, I think any single person watching this has used ChatGPT or Claude or any of the other tools to write copy, right? Whether it's a social media video script or whether it's, a caption. That's just standard, right? So whether we see it or not, AI is being adopted from our day to day. But then you get this feeling like there's something that you're missing out on, or you're feeling less than because you don't know the coolest tools to get the shortcuts, right? You just don't, right? And then you're like, well, do I spend my time researching them and all that kind of stuff, or do I actually just keep focusing on what I need to focus on?
Yeah.
And it's a tough question to answer, man. I can't give that.
FOMO feeling
I can't. I can't say you should do this categorically.
Yeah.
All I can say is that the tools are getting better, and I would look at it from what are the tools that you're using now, and what are the features that they are adding. Like, for example, Facebook added a new AI kind of assistant, right? Could you play around with that? Is that worth using? I know as well, for Shopify, they added a new AI assistant. What can you do there?
Yeah.
I know that there's tools that you can use now if you want to start an e-commerce business, like one of our programs, Start and Scale with Greta. We updated that course and it's got everything you need to know to start your e-commerce business using AI around shortcuts, around coming up with your name, getting a mock-up for your product, all these different things. So you've kind of got two choices. You either have the time to research and understand it yourself, or you go and learn from, a source that can tell you some of the things that could be useful or helpful to you. But it is changing so fast, right? So, but will it make a difference drastically to your business? Yes. But will it make a difference if you take away from the thing that you need to focus on? Probably not. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
It's
finding that
damned
balance.
if you do or damned if you don't. It's a difficult question to answer because I could sit here and be a massive proponent for AI and say how it changes the game, because it does. But then I could sit here and say, you know what? You probably don't need to get caught up in the hype because you know what you need to do anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
it's that shiny object syndrome a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, but there are cool tools.
Yeah.
Man, I could tell you tools for days,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And, I use it on a daily basis, but then sometimes I wouldn't use it for a week. It just depends what I'm doing, what I'm working on. It really depends, man. It really depends, right? But I can tell you, if you're looking to solve a problem, AI can help you do it faster. Like, for example, we've got a coaching program too, which is incredible. And, for our coaching program, you were talking about coaches, we have a suite of incredible coaches that have built multiple 6, 7, or 8-figure e-commerce brands. Like, they're actually doing it right now. And they're in our community. These people are in our community, and we find them and give them opportunity to give back. So they can only take on a small amount of clients.
Yeah.
But they have a very, very rich set of skills and experiences on how to start or grow an e-commerce business. So we've got a coaching program too. And it's an amazing mentorship and coaching program, right? I'm looking at going, okay, we know that a lot of our members end up signing up to our coaching program. Not everyone, but that's a big proportion. We don't market our coaching program. Nobody knows about it. The only way that people can join it is if they become a Foundr Plus member. Okay, so then I'm like, okay, well, maybe we should look at actually marketing this product, and what would that look like? And what would it look like if we looked at cold outreach, right? Reaching out to e-commerce founders that actually don't know us and going, hey, we've got an incredible mentorship coaching program that could really help you, right? What does that look like? And then there's all sorts of AI tools that you can do for scraping and, and outreach and, customizing the personalized message. So that was a problem 18 months ago where you probably didn't have those tools that could help speed things up. So I think keeping an open mind is really important. If you're looking to solve a problem, how can AI help you? But yeah, probably looking at how to integrate in your day-to-day is helpful, but is it critical? It's a tough one to say. It just depends on what you got going on, man. Because no one's got time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Last question for you, man. If you're speaking to someone right now who's listening or watching the Fitness and Lifestyle podcast and has just heard you talk about all this and is probably following your journey as well, and this is an entrepreneur who is kind of like one of those natural born entrepreneurs, or maybe they think they are, but they're in a position where they've just kind of taken loss after loss after loss, and they're feeling like they're just completely stuck and not sure what to do next in terms of continue on that path of being the entrepreneur and building their business, or to just go and get really good at a skill and go work for someone else. What advice would you give to that person listening at the moment?
Look, I think, the whole premise of Foundr is it's not what, it's who. And there are people out there that have solved the problem that you have. It's your job to go out and find those people and learn from them. And that's the whole premise of Foundr. We get some of the greatest entrepreneurs of our generation to give back on our platform that have built super successful businesses. And, it really comes down to working out who's done what you've already wanting to achieve, getting a coach, getting a mentor, signing up to Foundr Plus, like whatever it is, find people that have done what you want to do and learn from them. That's the biggest hack there is out there. And no, honestly, that we've all been there, right? I've lost millions of dollars. I've never talked about it, right? Like, it's tough. It's brutal, especially as a solo founder.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you wouldn't change it for the world because, you know, life's too short to not do work you don't enjoy. And if you really enjoy it and you really love it and you truly hand on heart believe that your product or your service deserves to be out there and helping people or, you know, transforming people's lives or whatever it is, then you got to keep going. As painful as it is, we've all been there and it's really brutal. It's really tough. And I feel for you and I hope we can support you some way, stage on the journey that you're at. But even not, just know that we've all been there.
That's awesome, man. Nathan, I really appreciate your time today, mate, and so much value as always. And I'm glad we could connect again. And I'm super glad to hear that, you know, you're doing exceptionally well, not only in the business space, but more importantly in, you know, your personal and health space as well, which is incredible. And I'm looking forward to keep following along with that journey and hopefully seeing a few more gym selfies as well, my man. But I appreciate everyone who's tuned into this episode today as well, guys. I really do appreciate everyone who listens every single week. And if you haven't subscribed to the show already, please do. We've got plenty more value coming soon. But again, thanks so much, Nathan, and really appreciate your time. We'll have the link to Foundr Plus in the show notes below as well.
Yes. So if anyone wants to, thank you so much. If anyone sign up for Foundr Plus, it's just foundr.com/trial. You can get $1 trial.
Beauty.
7 days.
Thanks so much, man.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much, guys, for listening. We'll chat to you in next week's episode.